Life guarantees a certain baseline of pain. We are all fragile, and no matter how we build our psychological defenses, a single impact can shatter our safety and send ripples through everything we know. That vulnerability comes with a terrible side effect: human self-consciousness. Because we know exactly what makes us feel fear, shame, and agony, we hold the precise blueprint for inflicting those feelings on someone else. We understand how to exploit weakness because we are acutely aware of our own. When that pain goes unchecked, it can fester into a deep resentment against existence itself. We see this in individuals consumed by their suffering, who appoint themselves supreme judges of reality. Looking at this text from a mass shooter, the conclusion is bleak. Give the earth back to the animals. They deserve it infinitely more than we do. If we follow this logic to its absolute end, severe trauma should always result in malevolence. A mind subjected to intense, unmitigated suffering should naturally harden into something cold, cruel, and eager to distribute that pain to everyone else. Yet, if you look closely at the people around you, you will notice a glaring exception to this rule. Very often, the individuals who have endured the most devastating, silent agonies walk through the world as the gentlest people in the room. We expect a broken psyche to lash out. We expect victims to become victimizers. So why do some people walk through absolute hell, only to emerge determined to ensure no one else ever feels the heat of that fire? Why doesn't unbearable pain universally corrupt the human soul? Every survivor eventually reaches what we can call the trauma crossroads. This is a subconscious, high-stakes juncture where a shattered mind has to make a choice: externalize the damage and make the world pay, or internalize it completely. Radical kindness in these survivors is a highly evolved, desperate survival response. It is a tactical decision to maintain order in the wake of chaos, forged through a conscious refusal to let pain dictate their character. Consider a child growing up in an abusive or chronically neglectful environment. The absolute absence of safety starves the developing mind, forcing it to adapt rapidly just to navigate the daily chaos of their own home. Under prolonged stress, their nervous system recalibrates. It bypasses standard emotional processing and locks into a permanent state of hypervigilance, constantly scanning the environment for the slightest hint of danger. They master an invisible curriculum. They learn how to read silence. They can sense a shift in a room's tension before anyone else. And they learn to predict volatile emotional outbursts before a single word is spoken. This creates an exhausting paradox. They develop the capacity to feel intense, agony themselves into small spaces to keep the peace and remain functional. Society casually praises this as strong intuition or a naturally sweet disposition. In reality, it is a trauma-forged threat detection system, repurposed to protect the people around them. This psychological adaptation has massive statistical consequences for society. We often hear about the cycle of abuse, and mathematically, the transmission of trauma across populations is terrifying. Look at the exponential math of malevolence. If one abuser hurts 3 children, and each of those children grows up to hurt 3 more, the trauma cascades. Within 20 generations, you would have billions of damaged, dangerous individuals, more than the entire population of the planet. But human behavior shatters this model. The vast majority of abused individuals do not go on to abuse their own children. They actively refuse to pass the pain forward. Achieving this requires a punishing psychological mechanism. The survivor makes a grueling, conscious choice to act as a dead end for the cycle of abuse. They absorb the toxicity themselves, refusing to let it poison anyone else. This empathy represents the active, physical quarantine of evil. It is a deliberate blockade, ensuring the darkness they survived stops permanently with them. True world-changing empathy is never an automatic human reflex. It is a hard-won skill that requires an intimate, horrifying knowledge of pain. Survivors can read the subtle signs of distress in the eyes of a stranger, precisely because they have personally mapped the absolute deepest trenches of human suffering. They recognize the terrain. The psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl observed a profound truth about this process. Human suffering only ceases to be unbearable the exact moment it is anchored to a purposeful responsibility toward others. This philosophy breathes life into the survivor's journey. The senseless, chaotic past suddenly gains profound meaning when their own pain becomes the exact tool they use to shield someone else from a similar fate. For these survivors, peace is defined by the active, daily management of their own wounds. It is the labor required to transform their history into a sanctuary for everyone else. We tend to view overly accommodating individuals as weak, naive, or incapable of defending themselves. But this assumption completely misreads their nature. Compare their quiet, deliberate kindness against the loud, destructive nihilism of those who use their misery as an excuse to seek revenge on the world. One path is easy, the other requires monumental restraint. Choosing to remain soft, empathetic, and compassionate in a world that actively tried to destroy you is a staggering act of psychological strength. It takes ironclad resolve to look at the worst of humanity and offer warmth instead. Trauma-induced kindness serves as a method of personal healing, but its true power lies in its defiance. It is the ultimate rebellion against a cruel and chaotic universe.